Namaste, Shalom, Salam, everybody, Satnam. I'm going to speak today about cacao ceremonies. We're in this wonderful time right now where everybody's exploring spirituality, everybody's doing yoga, the words mindset and woke are being thrown around. But what's happening is a lot of people are wandering around really in the dark without knowing it. So they're picking up on things that they think are correct. So that, I'm going to just tell you of a few things. Some of that is 432 hertz is the hertz that we should be resonating with, not 440, because that's a lie. And there's numerous websites and blogs telling you that 440 came from Hitler. I'm not going to go into it deeper. I've spoken about it before. But that's a spiritual lie. It's propaganda, so to speak, so that you then disrupt your own frequency to align with a frequency that is disrupting yourself, your energy, your frequency, your output. Let's go back to the cacao ceremonies. I have traveled to Mexico extensively around the pyramid areas. And as you know, I'm a channel. I have past lives in Mexico. And I remember things. And you don't need to have what I have in order to understand what I'm about to tell you. So I went to Palenque, which was, I think, a 9-hour drive from where I was staying in Tulum. And I had a tour guide who is actually an incredible archaeologist who writes for the National Geographic. So, you know, when I travel around to these places, I do hire these experts. And the experts, again, don't necessarily know the truth. They only know what, A, they've been fed, or B, when I say fed, there's a line of study. I'm a yoga teacher as well, by the way. I had to learn about yoga, and I had to do the syllabus as given to me, and I had to say or learn that yoga came from the Indus Valley, which is India, which actually yoga is far older than that and comes from Egyptian civilizations. But again, I'm not going to go further into that. But what I'm trying to say is that we learn what we have to learn. Otherwise, I can't progress in, for example, the yoga. I have to take that exam, or we do essays, assignments. So I have to have that knowledge, which is given to me by my teacher, that was given to them by their teacher. But what's the actual truth? What are we allowed to know as the truth? Always keep that in mind with whatever that you learn in life, that, okay, this is what I'm learning, but is this the truth? About the history of humanity goes further back than the history books are telling us than what we are being taught in school. But let's go back to cacao. So I went to Palenque, and I had this archaeologist showing me around. And she took a lot of notes from me, because as I was walking around the land, it is beautiful. The land is stunning, and oh, it's so beautiful. But something wasn't right. I could feel the energy. I said, something's not right here. And she was basically showing me certain pyramids and points that pointed up to Venus. And again, the name Venus, by the way, isn't the natural resonance of the word. It's actually Aphrodite. So Venus was the Latin name given by I believe the Greeks, but the original vibration that we resonate with is Aphrodite. So let's just call it Venus for now, because that's what everybody else is calling it. So there's pyramids and points that are pointing up to Venus, and you'll find this throughout the world in temples. So I've been to temples in Turkey, in Italy, Mexico, Egypt, of course, Jordan. I've traveled the world, and there's a lot of these temples and pyramids that are aligned with the energy of Venus, Aphrodite. And I kind of sensed, I was like, okay, that's a bit off. Now, I haven't studied astrology, but I'm connected to it. All of you are connected to the cosmos. It's not something that you need to study. You are connected to it once we remove ourselves from the not knowing. And the not knowing is also the wisdom that we are being, not the wisdom, the knowledge we are being given from outside. So I keep digressing, because there's so many points as I'm talking. I'm like, okay, that's false information. That is, anyway. So I could feel that the alignment with Aphrodite, Venus, it was a bit skewed. And anyway, I did some work on the land to realign those energies back with Venus. It was almost as if they were trying to move the position of Venus to disrupt the frequency of those who are living on this beautiful planet. So there were also 3 pyramids which they say had 3 tombs in. One of them was Lord Cacao. And it was interesting. So at the time I couldn't go into the pyramid, but they can't take the tomb out because the doorways or the pyramid or the tomb was built around the coffin, and so the doorways are too small for it to go out. And I got a bad feeling on the land. I didn't like it at all, although it was beautiful. It was interesting, the hotel I was staying in, they had a lake, but the water wasn't clear as the water in Quintana Roo. So in the hotel I was staying in, the guy was a big fan of Cacao, and on the wall there were these carvings. And I asked him what it was, and there was one with Lord Cacao doing this, and a woman serving him something. And I said, what is he being served? And he said, oh, that's cacao. Then, let's just think about this. Lord Cacao is being served cacao. So this is more Aztec rather than Mayan. So please don't confuse the two. When you go to Mexico, they'll tell you that the Mayans had these rituals, but actually the Mayans are the originators of the land, but it was the Aztecs who came in and raped and murdered and sacrificed. So the cacao ceremony is picked up, right? You know, everybody's doing it. You can do it in London. You can do it everyone's like, oh, it's a spiritual ceremony to connect with yourself. Okay, so let me just read you something. So you can Google sacrifice cacao ceremony. So chocolate-coated sacrifices in Mesoamerica. So they have sacrificial rituals that take place annually in the Aztec city of Teotihuacan. This was back in the day. A slave chosen to represent Quetzalcoatl would perform a sacrificial dance on the eve of his sacrifice. If he didn't dance joyously, the temple elders would prepare a potion of human blood washed off of sacrificial knives mixed with chocolate in order to make the slave forget about his impending sacrifice and continue to dance cheerfully. So, from Mesoamerica archaeological records, chocolate is typically known for its economic role as a currency of social restriction, as a beverage exclusive to the upper class. And how did it become associated with human sacrifices? Basically, the rituals are derived from the Olmecs thousands of years before. Chocolate is a sacrificial ritual, and it was used in sacrifice. There's so much here. I don't want to read the whole thing. But they also used to mix as you said, the cacao was mixed with the blood. So cacao ceremonies really are about sacrifice. And when you are participating in these cacao ceremonies, you're actually following a tradition of Cacao. It's not really Quetzalcoatl, but it's Lord Cacao, who is known as the Lord of Darkness. Most Mayans, most Mexicans may disagree with me because they don't know the true history. I know the true history because I was there at the time. I remembered it when I traveled extensively to the pyramid areas. I remembered what happened. I remembered Lord Cacao, who was one of the ones who started these sacrificial rituals, you know, cutting off babies' heads. I've cleared so many dead baby souls from the land where they sacrificed these children who couldn't leave the land, and that was again to block the frequency of the land there. So please, please, spiritually, don't enter something unconsciously. Don't be like, okay, let's go to a cacao ceremony. This is good for you. Let's do mushrooms. Mushrooms is another one which I'll talk about, which I have already spoken about, which is really bad for you because it comes from the greys, these aliens who then use your body for their own good. So I'm asking you to please make sure that whatever you do, you know what you're entering into. Cacao is a blood sacrifice ceremony. Do not take part in cacao ceremonies for this reason. Do your own research. Don't even believe me, but feel it in your bones, feel it in your soul. Your soul remembers things. You are beautiful, you are love, you are light. We don't sacrifice, we don't do any of that. We love, we care for each other.